Joining us now is Byron York, chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, and Mary Katharine Ham. Both are Fox News contributors. Byron, I know you're in Philly to cover the debate. What is your prediction for tomorrow night, given the soft sell interview she did, the Univision radio interview she did, where she's literally flipping pages during the interview, and all of her kind of Spice Girl talk of the last few days?
Well, we may have some clues about it from this fight they've had over the microphones. Remember when the microphone fight first came into public, people thought it was because of the prospect of Donald Trump interrupting Kamala Harris so much. But now we've learned that it was actually about the idea or a plan for Kamala Harris to interrupt Donald Trump. And if you look at some of her promotional videos, listen to her staff, the one thing they talk about her all the time is she's a prosecutor. She's a tough prosecutor. And they love video of when she was on the Senate Judiciary Committee and gave Brett Kavanaugh a hard time, went after Jeff Sessions. So I think she sees herself as playing the tough prosecutor and having some sort of courtroom drama moment in the debate. And of course, it's Trump's job to be able to handle that and do exactly what you just said, which is focus on the important issues.
Well, a new study, Mary Katharine, by a Media Research Center finds that of the three big evening newscasts, ABC's World News Tonight, run by debate moderator David Muir, has been the most positive toward Harris and the most hostile to Trump. And the study found that the coverage was 100% positive toward Kamala Harris and 93% negative toward Trump. Wow. And it's a shock that the media have lost its credibility, Mary Katharine.
Kudos. It's hard to hit 100%. On the performance front, I think Kamala Harris and that Penzies Spice clip you showed made me more nervous for her going into this. She is not comfortable in her own skin. She is not confident on that stage. I think Trump, by the way, sometimes has an opposite problem where he's too confident and too comfortable with himself and on stage and can let that get in his way. But to the point about media, Laura, there's so much here that he can anticipate, that Trump can anticipate this being biased, that he can anticipate them not holding her to account, so that he has to hold her to account instead. She has had a vibes campaign and she wants a vibes debate. And debates can be about moments, right? There can be a moment where you break through, but that usually comes from some fluidity and some quickness on your feet, most of which she does not have, but Trump does. And so holding her to account on the facts of her record is going to matter, and it needs to come from Trump. And I think the New York Times Siena poll of this week shows that when it comes to making herself the change candidate, voters just aren't buying that. And so Trump can really drill down on that.
Well, another thing, Byron, that hasn't worked for Harris, and the angle predicted that it would not work, given the state of the economy and the border, is this idea that Trump was the enemy of democracy, right? That there's never going to be another election. People have literally said that on television. There will never be another election if he wins, right? That hasn't worked. People are not buying that. And so I don't know, does she abandon that altogether tomorrow night, the democracy deal?
I think she probably does. You know, the late, great Biden campaign, the man who was running that campaign basically believed that they could make the whole election about January 6th and the future of democracy. And Joe Biden, in his own way, was mentioning that all the time, that you elect Trump, we may see the end of American democracy. Kamala Harris pretty much dropped that immediately in favor of the vibes campaign. So will she bring it back? I don't know. I think it's much more likely that in prosecutor mode she will bring up Trump's legal problems, the prosecutions, the guilty verdict that he got in New York, and see if she can get under his skin. I think when you talked about her getting under his skin or trying to, I think that's really her big strategy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a feeling Trump's ready for this, but we'll see. On Meet the Press, Bernie Sanders, Mary Katharine, might have been a little too truthful on Harris's flip-flopping on policy. Watch.
She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
So, Mary Catherine, is Bernie saying, well, she plays a good establishment hack when she wants to, but she's really an extremist or a socialist like I am? Confusing.
Hey, there's an election to win here. I gotta thank Bernie for his frankness there, and I think it's something voters should keep in mind, and it's something Trump should hammer. That none of these backing off of her liberal proposals have come from her own mouth, right? They've come from anonymous aides. They've come from, I'm not sure any of them have been named, but they've come from the campaign, not from her. Until they come from her, do not believe her. And even when they come from her, you should take that with a grain of salt because Bernie's telling you to.
Mary Catherine and Byron will be watching. Thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.